So first and foremost, want to introduce myself. My name is Jack McKenzie, and I work for PDS, and just wanted to thank you for joining us here today. Today's topic is really all about financing options, and certainly in today's environment with COVID-19, a lot of organizations are looking at ways to be able to preserve their cash as just one of the reasons that we want to talk about financing today. But bottom line is it comes down to the fact that organizations still need to keep running, right? We still need our infrastructure up and running. We still need end user devices. In some cases, projects that we weren't planning on are now being thrust upon us in terms of work from home and other types of things. But we've also still have, projects that were scheduled all along. So it's become a little bit of a challenge in some organizations to find out how are we going to pay for this. And really that's what today is about, getting creative in terms of financing options to make sure that we continue to keep going within infrastructure technology to help our organizations. So a couple things I want to talk about first and foremost, as we get into housekeeping, right? You probably, if you've been online for the last 5 minutes, have heard us kind of navigating Teams. We are relatively new to Teams. We're in our infancy as well, and you're probably hearing that. Many of you probably are as well. So just to go through housekeeping here, I'll be handing this off to some fantastic presenters. If you've got any questions during the course of the presentation, please just utilize the question box that is in that toolbox within the Teams display. So there's basically 2 chat boxes in there, and one has a little question mark in there. So if you've got a question, click on that and enter that in, and we'll be able to see those questions as you have them. And at the end of the presentation, we'll read any of those questions off and get an answer for you. Now, in the event we run a little bit long and there's a lot of questions, we can certainly see if everybody's up for staying on a little bit longer. If not, we can take those questions offline and direct them, straight to the person who asked the question. So again, we're talking about financing, and really 3 of the areas that we're going to be jumping into in particular. The first revolves around deferring, right? So the idea of how do I bring in assets? How do I continue to, begin and go through our projects without having to outlay a bunch of cash right from the upfront? And that's really about deferring assets, or deferring payments rather. The next one really is about being able to bring in additional funds from assets that you currently have. So really leveraging the assets that you have to possibly bring some cash into your organization so that you can continue to do projects. And then finally really is about, and kind of an exciting part of what HPE has been doing for a few years now, is really about paying as you go, paying for what you need to use. And in particular, we'll be talking about GreenLake. And if you haven't heard that, that really is an on-demand type of infrastructure where you really just pay for what you need as you need it. Certainly in this day of age, very important, and we continue to see that be of importance. So without further ado, let me switch it over to the real experts here. I want to first of all introduce Susie Immel. Susie is with HPE Financial Services, and she's going to take us through a lot of these great options. Susie?
Thank you, Jack.
Sure.
Let's get my presentation up. Okay. So so as Jack mentioned, I'm with Hewlett-Packard Financial Services, and I work directly with partners like PDS to help them utilize financing for their customers, for their end users like yourself. So just a little bit about HPE Financial Services. If you're not familiar with us, we've been around for a number of years, and actually we are the world's largest captive IT company with over $14 billion in assets, and we do over $4 billion annually in new financing. So speaks to our strength, and we have global capabilities. 1,300 employees in more than 50 countries. So if you are a global company yourself, we can work with all of your offices in all the different countries that you might do business in. Out of all of the HPE's top corporate accounts, 80% of their top corporate accounts, they're utilizing HPE financial services. And I've been doing this for 30 years. And this next number of 76% of the customers we do business with come back and do another lease or financial structure with us. And to me, that speaks volumes of who we are, our integrity, and how we are, working and trying to build relationships with our partners and customers as well. This shouldn't surprise anybody, but we're the world's largest reseller of pre-owned HPE and HPI equipment, and we manage over 1.2 million units annually in the secondary market. And you'll this last point, you'll hear me reference this a number of times because this is kind of key in what sets Hewlett Packard Financial Services apart from maybe other financing companies out there that you may or may not be using or you may or may not have heard about. But we partner with PDS. We are a multi-vendor financing partner. So the product that you might be purchasing from PDS or wanting to put on lease may or may not be HPE product, may or may not be HPI product. It doesn't matter because we are an IT lessor. So anything that you're looking to acquire, we can wrap some type of a financial solution around. We don't care what the vendor is, and quite honestly, in some cases, the lease itself, the financing piece itself, does not even have to have a hardware asset to it. We've done 100% software financing, implementation, consulting. So anything that you're looking to finance in your solution, we can work with. So as Jack mentioned, kind of the three pillars that we want to talk about today: deferring and reducing your expenses, helping you generate cash from already owned assets in your company, and then matching payment to use. So I want to step into the deferral or reduce the payments. And this is something that I often structure at the end of a fiscal year, at the end of the year here, where customers don't have budgets left until the following year. So what we're seeing today is a lot of customers are wanting to utilize this type of structure to defer their payments up to 90 days once you receive them. And when I talk about deferring payments, I'm not talking about deferring payments 90 days and paying upfront and in full. I'm talking about deferring lease payments. So we can structure a lease anywhere from 1 year to 5 year, and it can be any type of structure. When I talk about structure, I'm talking about a dollar buyout, financing lease to a fair market value operating lease, although operating lease is in parentheses these days because of FASB rules changing. But we can take your solution, wrap a lease around it 1 to 5 years, and the lease, once the lease starts, which doesn't start until you have received the equipment, once your lease starts and those lease payments start, your first 3 payments will reflect a $0 due amount. So if it's a 36-month lease, the first 3 payments are at 0, and then the 33 remaining months would be whatever that calculation is, depending on the structure and the total financing amount to your lease. So we are seeing that a lot of customers are wanting to hang on to their cash right now. We don't know when this scenario is going to lift and when the economy is going to strengthen. So we can take those 3 first months, make them 0, and get your solution today, and start the actual lease payments in month 4. Now, what we have come up with as HPFS, and another structure and another scenario that we're helping customers with, because the market and this timing is so unknown, and we really don't know the time frame associated with this. What we're also offering customers, and what we have the capability to help customers with, is defer 90% of your costs into 2021 and beyond. We're calling this our 2020 Payment Relief Program. So we're structuring leases today where we take 1% of the total amount being financed and make that your monthly payment. And in this scenario, for the first 8 months. And then when month 9 comes along, your payments step up. And once again, they step up according to the structure and the total amount of equipment that's being financed on that lease. The slide that you have in front of you right now, to give you an example of what that looks like, just so you know, this particular scenario is a 36-month lease. It's a fair market value structure. So it speaks to 20% being, soft costs and 80% being a hardware item. So, and it also just speaks to HPE servers and networking. Keep in mind the 90-day deferral and the 2020 Payment Relief Program, again, can be used on any type of IT asset, hardware or software, in any structure. So for purposes of just giving you an idea of what this 2020 Payment Relief Program looks like, the scenario says the equipment cost is $100,000. So if we take 1% of that $100,000, the first 8 monthly payments are going to be $1,000 each month. And then when month 9 comes about, that's when, in this scenario, the payment would step up to $3,300. As I mentioned before, the lease does not start until you have actually received the equipment. We have signed the lease paperwork. PDS has placed the order for your solution. It has been delivered, and then HPFS, I come back and ask you to sign off on the acceptance and delivery of that equipment. Only at that point, once we know that you have the equipment, will the lease payment start. So it's already May. It's May 1st today. So when we look at 8 months, and if the lease were to start today, and we know that that's not the case because we haven't placed any order yet, those first 8 payments are going to bring you to February. So it's going to kind of bring you into 2021 and help alleviate some of those expenses. Once again, with an unknown, situation, we're finding that customers are really liking that and liking this deferment. The next program that we're working with customers on is what we're calling our extended deployment. I think last year we referred to it as our pre-provisioning, but we've modified this and we have named this our extended deployment, which allows customers to acquire all of their technology that you might need in the next 6, 9 to 12 months, acquire that upfront, maybe take advantage of some pricing discounts because you're going to get all of the equipment that you're going to need upfront for 12 months. And then this program allows you to phase in that equipment as you deploy it, as you turn it on, and you don't start paying for that equipment until it's been deployed or turned on. Everything up until this point I had mentioned can be any type of manufacturer, need not be HPE, HPI, need not even have any HPE or HPI in the lease, because we have this extended deployment is specific to HPE and HPI equipment only, because what makes this unique is as you deploy your equipment, as you turn on the equipment and start paying for that equipment, we work with HPE and HPI to make sure that the care packs and the maintenance on your particular product do not begin until that equipment is rolled out. So there's no need to buy extended care packs because you're going to take an additional year to roll that out. We just make sure that the care packs and the maintenance don't start until that equipment has been turned on. And I have a slide behind this to show you how the lease looks if we're looking at a 12-month deployment, and this might be a little small, so I apologize for that. But when you obtain all your equipment up front, what we ask is that you start making payments on 30% of that equipment. That we're going to assume that in the first 3 months that you're going to roll out 30% of that equipment. So you'll see day one in the first column that we write a lease schedule in this case for 30% of the equipment that you have purchased, and you start paying day one for that equipment. And on day one, 30% of the equipment and those care packs start. And then we come back to you on day 91 and we ask, okay, how many units did you turn on? What did you deploy? In this scenario, you tell us that you've deployed another 30%. So we go ahead and we write a lease schedule for that additional 30%, and you'll see that you're deploying, you're rolling equipment on in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, and they'll roll off staggered. So they're rolling on staggered and rolling off staggered. So we would take the 36-month lease and you would start making payments in month 4 on that 30%. And you'll see as we add over your lease payments increase then as far as total to $73.02 in this scenario. We come back to you on day 181 and we ask the same question. In this scenario, you're telling us that you've rolled out 30% more. We write a lease schedule for that 30%, and the care packs and the maintenance start only on that tranche of equipment that you've rolled out. And then by the end of the 12 months, whatever hasn't been deployed, we assume that has been rolled out, and that's where we start that lease scenario and that lease schedule, and the maintenance starts at that point. So you're not going to lose any time on the maintenance and the care packs, and you're going to be able to deploy and pay for that equipment as you utilize it. Other ways, I also wanted to mention, oopsie, hang on. I also wanted to mention that we do have program-specific leasing programs for products such as storage. We have a new storage logo promotion where if you're looking at placing Nimble 3PAR and Primera, we've got promotions where we can utilize a low payment or 2 payments on HPFS. And we also have an Aruba-specific leasing program where it's similar to the Cisco Easy Pay. So you're looking at a 36-month lease, dollar buyout, 0%. So not only can we utilize some of these scenarios and deferments that we talked about, we do have product-specific programs for those 2 product lines within HPE. What I also wanted to mention is generating cash from assets you might already own. And in my world, we call this a sale leaseback. So we have many customers out there that are looking for ways to get cash infusion back into their company. Maybe you purchased equipment, 4 or 5 months ago, and we, of course, didn't have any idea that COVID-19 was coming our way. And maybe you wish you hadn't purchased that and you wish you had that cash. We'd have the ability to go ahead and purchase that equipment back from you. So you are selling it to HPEFS. We would write a check for the value of that equipment. So you would have the money, the cash back into your company to utilize however you see fit. And then we start leasing that product back to you. And then at the end of the lease term, you would own that product again. So the product never leaves. It never leaves your floor, your company. The only thing that changes is the ownership of that equipment. So the ownership obviously goes from you to HPFS back to you at the end of the lease term. And the scenario I just used was 5 months. Know that IT assets, they have value for many years. So typically we want to work with a customer that has equipment valued at $100,000 or more. And we can take a look at equipment that's you purchase 3, 4, in some cases, depending on the asset, 5 years ago. So it doesn't have to be brand new equipment. It's equipment that you own, that there's still depreciation or a value on that equipment that can be utilized to produce cash back into your company. If that's a scenario that you would like to look at, typically the information that HPFS needs is the asset, the manufacturer, because once again, it need not be HPE equipment. It could be any type of manufacturer, and we would then need to know the serial number, the configuration, and the age of that asset. And we'll determine, the value of it today to determine, the amount that we can offer for that equipment. Many times I work with CFOs in this case, and we can pretty much match the depreciation left on that equipment, and that's what we try to achieve for you. The last slide I have speaks to our pre-owned technology capability. So just keep in mind that we have all types of certified HPE equipment that's available, either off the shelf or custom configuration. And it comes with the 30-day warranty. It's eligible for HPE maintenance and support. It's licensed, it's updated, it's tested and authenticated, and we have a full inventory of legacy equipment. And it's also within this pre-owned capability where, as I mentioned to begin with, I could provide a 1 year to 5 year lease structure for our customers. Anything shorter than 1 year is a short-term rental that would be worked through our certified pre-owned technology group, where they can help put together a short-term rental for equipment. And once again, we're seeing that that's really popular today as well, since the scenario is unknown at this time. A lot of companies have, customers or employees working from home, and they need networking and PCs and all kinds of additional equipment, IT equipment that you didn't need before. So and we don't know if you'll need it when this COVID situation ends. So we have the ability to provide a short-term rental for that equipment if need be. And then the next slide I have, I'm going to toss it over to Liz Fitzgerald, and she can speak specific to GreenLake and those options and opportunities.
Thanks, Susie. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about GreenLake. So my role is to work with PDS and their customers on another alternative we have, especially with today's challenges that we're seeing. It's HPE's consumption as a service solution, and it's called GreenLake. So GreenLake offers customers a service where you can pay as you go, and you pay for the resources that you're using. There's no upfront cost. It's a monthly bill for the services used. We actually put equipment in your data center or in a colo. You make those decisions, and then we bill based on usage on a monthly basis. With GreenLake, you have the ability to scale your environment up or down. We put extra capacity on the floor as a buffer. This is really important because we want to make sure as projects increase within your environment, you've got the capacity to grow, and that helps with your instant time to value. So on a daily basis, you can see the utilization levels via the portal. It's our metering tool, which also has showback capabilities. And this is, we kind of call this our secret sauce, because our customers are really interested in being able to see this on a daily basis, what the utilization levels are. So overall, when implementing a GreenLake solution, our customers have told us that there's about a 30% CapEx savings due to eliminating the need for over-provisioning. And that's a really big deal, especially in today's environment. So as you can see, this just gives you a quick overview of GreenLake. I'll be happy to work, let your PDS rep know if you'd like more information on this, and we'll set up a meeting on the side to talk more about Green Lake. So thank you. Turning it back to Jack and Susie.
Thanks, Liz. So we've got at least one question here. And again, I encourage everybody, if you've got any kind of a question, please submit it in that Q&A area. But I assume we're okay sharing this presentation. Susie, is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so that was the question we had. Basically, just really good content, and wanted to make sure that we could send this out to the folks that are on the call. So yes, we can do that. Anybody else have any questions? We've got the experts here.
And actually, Jack, what I might share with you to send out, I will certainly provide my deck here, but I have a 1, or maybe it's a 2-page electronic brochure that speaks to these capabilities, and then it has working links that you can click into it, and it provides more of the detail behind the programs and the structures.
Well, again, hopefully everybody here felt this was useful. I can say, as someone who's been in the industry for an awful long time, working in the Midwest, Susie, you might back me up on this a little bit here, but Wisconsin in particular has always been a little bit behind in terms of wanting to lease things. But I can tell you that it really is one of the better ways of being able to bring technology in, and certainly in today's world, it's going to be even more of a critical way for organizations to look at consuming their technology. Some of the benefit of that obviously is being able to get new technology in fast, and in today's world, in a way to be able to preserve some cash. And I know a lot of folks out there think about leasing in a different way, but when you think about where our world is now in terms of cloud infrastructure and just kind of monthly payment for different types of applications, really the whole industry is moving towards monthly payment fee, right? So if you've got folks within the organization that are just kind of questioning leasing within the IT infrastructure, many of you are really already doing it already on a monthly basis. You're paying for some type of service, whether that's an HR application or storage or cloud infrastructure. So it's really not that far off of a conversation. And we certainly would love to be able to help assist anybody in that conversation at PDS. So if you've got some questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your account director. And we certainly can bring these experts that you heard today with Susie and Liz to talk further with you as well. So with that said, I don't see any additional questions. But again, if you do have some, please just reach out to us and we'll do our best to help you out. And with that said, I guess we'll just shut things down. I hope everybody stays healthy and have a great weekend and some great weather. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jack.